Welcome, 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 everyone. Everyone, come on in the room. Let's make sure that we are live everywhere we're supposed to be. Excuse me. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And we are just waiting for Geri to log on so we can share her story. In the meantime, and in between time, we will go through the house rules before we start. So I do see Geri in the back end, so I'm so excited to have her here. And we will get to her story in just a moment. But I do want to share these little house rules with you all. Once again, welcome to In the Loop with Lupus and Color. We are so excited that you are joining us as people are coming in. Make sure that you share it and bring a friend with you because I'm sure that Geri's story is going to be magnificent and you're going to be able to glean something from what she says. So let's go over these house rules first. The information and our answers provided during Lupus and Color videos and live events are not meant to be used as a substitute for professional medical advice. The information contained in any video or live event is not intended to recommend the self management of health problems or wellness. It is not intended to endorse or recommend any particular type of medical treatment. Should any attendee have any healthcare related questions, promptly call or consult your physician or healthcare provider. Persons accessing this information assume full responsibility for the use of the information and understand and agree that Lupus and Color or its presenters are not responsible or liable for any claim, loss, or damage arising from the use of the information. We want to make sure that you're educated, but we want to make sure that you're educated in a responsible way. So remember, we are sharing Lupus Warrior stories and what they have gone through and what they do to stay uplifted and stay well beyond lupus. But you have to make sure that you're checking with your doctor. So I'm glad we got that out the way. Today we are talking with Geri Rodriguez, and I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring her on up the stage so that we can start our talking. Hold 1 minute. Hey, Geri.
Hi everyone.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
It's a busy week.
Trust me, I know it has been very, very busy, but I'm so glad that you decided that you wanted to share your story with us. So let's begin at the beginning.
Um,
tell me,
so
tell me
oh,
when you were diagnosed, and tell me how that process went for you.
So this started probably in the beginning of 2017. So I was 27 at the time, and I would wake up in the morning feeling a bit achy. My joints were feeling stiff. And I have older friends, and a lot of them are like, once you hit 30, your body's never the same. So I'm like, is this just is this just the process of, getting older? Is this what it's supposed to feel? So I sort of just like let it go. But
Mhm.
again, every day I'm waking up, I still feel the same aching pain. I'm just like, what's going on with my body? But again, I didn't know what it was. And I guess I was sort of gaslighting myself, telling
Mm,
myself, oh, this is nothing. It'll eventually go away until it progressed to a point where I couldn't even open doorknobs. I couldn't do my makeup. I couldn't write. And at that point, I went to my primary care and I was telling her all of these symptoms, like I'm in pain. I don't know what's like going on with me. Like even just walking a few steps, like I just couldn't do it. So again, because those symptoms were invisible, my
mhm,
primary care was just like, maybe we'll do a little bit more stretching and exercise. And if the pain is not, not tolerable, we'll pop in some Tylenol. So I'm just like, okay, thinking, she's a doctor. She knows best. So I just
right.
went on her advice. So I'm
Mhm,
thinking, okay, I'll stretch, I'll exercise more. Maybe I'm not in the best shape, so maybe that's why. But
mhm,
of course, that didn't work, and it eventually progressed to where I started getting shortness of breath. I had chest
mhm,
pains, and
mhm.
then my legs and my feet started to swell up. So at that point, I go back to my primary care and I'm just like, okay, something's visibly wrong now. So let's try to get to the bottom of this. So until it got worse, they wouldn't do
I
anything.
dismissed you. Yeah.
So once we got all the tests and, I did blood work, analysis, I did scans, trying to figure out what was going on until they pinpointed lupus.
Mm.
So it was a whole roller coaster of a ride to get to that diagnosis.
Right. How long did it take you from the time you felt the actual symptoms to the time that you were actually diagnosed?
I think I was very lucky because it was in months. So I started feeling
Wow.
probably like, yeah, early 2017, and I got diagnosed in July 2017. So a few
Wow.
months in between that, yeah, a few months. And then once it got progressively worse, is probably a few weeks that they were
Wow.
able to do all of those tests. And I got referrals because I was very adamant. I was like, something is clearly wrong. We need to get to the bottom of it. I don't
Yeah.
think if I pushed, it wouldn't have, gotten resolved that
Mm.
fast.
That's a good valid point, because I think sometimes we kind of give up on the doctors after they tell us whatever they tell us and then walk away, and we really need to be persistent and advocating for ourselves. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
because I'm also in like New York City, we have like a plethora of doctors, and I was lucky that everyone was sort of like in-house, so I was able to get those referrals very quickly.
That's important too, because I think it's harder when you're in a more suburban or rural area to find the doctors that actually know the information, understand the information, and are willing to work with you to get that
Yep.
diagnosis. So now tell me, when you got that diagnosis, what were your thoughts? I know we all feel like really crazy, like I cannot believe this is happening. Did you know what lupus was? What were your thoughts?
I had no idea what lupus was. I just heard about it because like Selena Gomez had it and just from like TV, but I didn't know what it really was. So
Mhm.
when they told me the news, they were just like, it's incurable. You're gonna have it for life. And at that time I just, sort of just broke down crying because I'm just like, I'm thinking my life is over. I don't know like what am I gonna do after this?
Right.
And I was sort of like in denial at that time as well because I went to two more rheumatologists. I was like, maybe it's wrong, like I knew something was wrong with me, but I just didn't want it to be that. So I'm just
Right.
like, we're going somewhere else. Let's get a second opinion. Let's get a third opinion. But it was the same results. So,
Mhm.
it took a while for me to finally accept that this was gonna be, my new normal.
Yeah, and that's an important point as well, because I guess we go. Do you feel like you've gone through a period of grief from what you used to be to where you are today?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like I tell a lot of people that it comes in waves. Like
Mhm.
I will reminisce like my old life. Like I was healthy and I was living it up, and then like all of a sudden you get this news and you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, you now have lupus and da da da,
Right.
all this stuff, and you just look back and you're just like, how did this even happen?
Right.
So again, there's some days where I feel totally normal. I forget that I even have lupus or any of the other diseases, but then once a flare hits, reality comes back and it's just like, oh, this is my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's got to be hard. It's sometimes isolating. How do you handle that?
So thankfully, I have a great support system. My
Mhm.
husband has been, with me even before I got lupus. So he was there when I was healthy, when I was going through the diagnosis and everything. So a great support system. My family and my friends, they've been the ones that, truly understand, have stuck with me from the
Mhm.
beginning to now. But, there are some few rotten apples that had to be let go along the way. But the ones that are, truly there for you, they have been such a good support
Yeah.
system.
Right. Did you feel like your friends kind of abandoned you at that point? Like when you couldn't go out and stuff like that, were they starting to try to abandon you at that point?
I think it was more like they just didn't understand, and it's more like peer pressure me,
Mhm.
like, it's okay, you can have like one drink, you can go out, it's fine. And I'm just like, no, I can't, I really can't. And it just got to a point where I'm just like, if you can't respect my boundaries, I don't think, we can continue on with this like friendship.
Yeah, because you have to go if you can't understand what I'm going through and respect what I'm doing. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, we talked about relationships and everything, and you stated that you have other comorbidities with lupus. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know a little bit of your story, but everybody else doesn't. So tell us what else comes with your lupus? What else has come with your lupus?
So 6 years later, I started getting new symptoms of like dry mouth, and I found like a lump sort of like right here by like my neck and like my parotid gland. So of course, I'm going back to my doctor to be like, this is something new. I don't know what's going on. So I was able to get that referral to a head and neck doctor just to, check it out.
Mhm.
We did an MRI, we did two biopsies, and we're just thinking, it's Sjogren's because, I had the dry mouth. Lupus
Right.
and Sjogren's are sort of, sister diseases. So that's what
Mhm.
everyone was just thinking, it's Sjogren's. And I was like, I accepted that. I was just like, yeah, it's probably that. Because again, I wasn't thinking anything else.
Mhm.
But the biopsy had confirmed that it was Sjogren's along with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Wow.
And the type of non-Hodgkin's is called malt lymphoma. And basically, um, it's like extranodal where it's sort of like attacking where I forgot what the terminology is, and I don't want to butcher it, but it's malt lymphoma, MALT, and it is more prevalent with people with Sjogren's. So
Mhm.
it's something that we are at higher risk for. So it was something that again we were not expecting, but no, that's what the biopsy confirmed.
Yeah, and that had to be a hard blow. It had to be a hard blow.
Yeah, when I thought lupus was hard, hearing the C word was even like a harder punch in the gut. Because again, I'm not expecting this. At that time, I'm like 33 now. So, I fully accepted lupus. I'm like, this is my norm. And now I have like these two other things that I have to worry about.
Yeah. So, what type of medications are you on for all of that? Because I'm sure that all of the medication that you have to take kind of takes a toll on your body, takes a toll on your mind. So, let us know what type of medications you're on.
So it was a lot of trial and error in the beginning.
Hmm.
So the very first one was Plaquenil and prednisone. That was
Okay.
like I think like the gold standard. They were just like, see how this is. And thankfully, it worked within, weeks. So like the chest pain, the swelling, the joint pain, that went away. But the lupus started attacking my kidneys. So we
Hmm.
needed to add on more medications for that.
Hmm.
So I had to go on Celsep and losartan.
Okay.
So that again, we played around with the dosages, and for a while, we finally found something that was pretty good, and
Yeah.
I stuck with that. Probably for a few years until we decided to get married. So I was talking to my doctor, maybe I could like wean off of the medication because again,
Hmm.
with Celsep, you aren't allowed to get pregnant, and we were thinking about starting a family soon.
Right.
So
Right.
again, based on my labs, we were trying to weigh it all out to see if I could wean off, and I was able to get the okay and wean off of that, and then started Imuran later on.
Okay. Okay.
So
And
with
that
Imuran,
that did how did that Imuran work for you?
so in the beginning, I had like bad GI side effects with that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
overall, once I kept continuing on with it, it sort of went away. I guess like my body just got used to it.
Yeah. Important point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, trial and error, and just to see like how your body reacts to it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
and then with the non-Hodgkins, we've done 4 rounds of Rituxan. So thankfully, it's just that next week I actually go back for my 1 year PET scan, and we're gonna see, how that is, and then if I need to go for another round, I'll do another round of Rituxan. But right now, with malt lymphoma, it's very slow growing. So
Mm,
that's the upside of this cancer is that it's very slow growing. So they're just doing 6 months, 1 year scan just to make sure
right.
everything is status quo or everything is good. But because it is such slow growing, I don't really need to, be on like chemotherapy or anything like that.
Okay. Okay.
And Rituxan is not chemo, it's just a monoclonal antibody.
Right.
So that's what we did for that. And right now I'm just on like the wait and watch protocol. So again, if
Absolutely.
anything is with with my scans, we'll start a whole nother round.
Right. Right. I I want to point out something that a couple of things that you stated that are so important. And I'm so glad that you brought it up. The one thing is it was a trial and error and a wait process. Because I think a lot of us we get sick and we want the cure immediately. And sometimes things take time, especially the medications. You said that your body had to adapt, and it's real important for us to really understand that. So let's talk a little bit more about that. As you were waiting, what was your doctor telling you, and what were you telling your doctor? Like, did you keep a journal? How did you let him know what was going on? What was the conversation like?
So with my doctors, I'm able to like message him like on the portal.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
anytime, like I had, an upset stomach, he would be like, okay, let's like instead of doing like 4 tablets a day, let's do three, see how that works.
Hmm.
So it was always that open communication. I wasn't afraid to be like, something's wrong, like what should I do?
Hmm.
So I was very thankful with my rheumatologist at that point. But again, yeah, a lot of patience, definitely, because again, we all want that, next day you're like you're feeling better, but
Right. I don't
obviously
need it.
it can't. So definitely a lot of patience. And again, there are just some days where I'm just like I just need rest, and I just gotta see what my body's doing.
Wow.
So just a lot of patience and just waiting it all out.
Absolutely. The other thing that struck me as so encouraging is that you said the upside of cancer is that I just had to do one round of Rituxan. How do you get to the mindset to be able to see that positivity? Our word for the day was positivity. And how do you get to that point? What have you done to make it to that point where you can say, well, the upside of it is A, B, C, and D?
Again, I think it's all about like perspective. Like again, we are living in a society where, one might look at cancer and just like, okay, my whole life is over. And again, at one point I did feel like that. But I'm also at the point where again, acceptance, and I fully accept that this is going to be my new normal, and there's I guess no point in like moping around.
Yeah.
um, but again, waves come and go, but I just don't want to be at that point where like I'm sad or depressed like 24/7. I'll
Right.
have my moments, but I just know, like I am, I guess, stronger than this, and I'm just gonna keep on going, and I'm gonna fight through this.
Yeah.
So, again, we all have our days where it's not always like rainbows and sunshines, and but I try to like weigh it all out, and I just want to be more positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody on, what is this? I might be looking back and forth, everybody, but I'm looking at Instagram as well. Maddie for Many said, did your rheumatologist and oncologist work together? That's an
Yes, they
awesome
did.
question. And
Yes,
so
they
they
did.
were able to work together and actually solve the issue that you were having.
Yeah, and they are from like two different hospitals. So,
Mm.
it was a little bit of a workaround, but they were able to communicate with each other. And that's one of the things that I needed most, because I was just like, I'm not going to do one thing if my other doctor says not to. I wanted them to be both, on the same page to make sure that, I'm getting the proper care for
Yeah.
both, for everything that's going on.
And it's important, like, you have to stay on top of them as well, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not just going to communicate by themselves. They need you to facilitate that communication, which goes back to
Mhm.
that whole advocating for yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Now, I'm from New York as well, so I think we have that attitude, like, you better tell me what's going on. I'm not going to sit here and wait. You know what I'm saying? But if you have someone that's a little timid, what do you suggest that they would do to have that communication open up for their doctors?
I definitely bring someone with you. Like for me, I have no problem saying, hello, like I need to get seen like right now.
Right,
But if
right.
you're not that type of person, again, bring a support system, your
Hmm.
mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, like anyone. Because again, coming in numbers
Hmm.
works like, they're not gonna say, one thing if it's just you, but if you have a group of you,
Yeah,
the conversation might be a little bit easier.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My doctors know if I'm bringing my husband, we got an issue. Either I'm in a lupus fog or you weren't listening to me and I told him and he's going to make you listen. So that's a very good point. Very, very good point. So, have you encountered any, I guess, misconceptions or some stigma related to lupus in your journey?
I guess like everyone here is like, we don't look sick.
Right.
Again, I look perfectly, fine, but again, you would have never known that, I have lupus, Sjogren's, and non-Hodgkin's, but that's something with like an invisible illness. You're not gonna know everything about them. So I think that's one thing when people are just looking at me and they're like, even at like the doctor's office or the hospital, like
Mhm.
I'm probably one of the youngest patients in the waiting room, and I can see them looking at me and they're
Right.
like, why is she here? And I'm just
Mhm.
like, you guys have no idea what's going on with my
Right. You're
body.
probably moving faster than me right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things that always gets you like, oh, you're too young to be sick. First of all, you don't know how old I am. Or you just not there yet.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Maddie said also take notes,
Oh,
which is a
yes,
good
for
point. That
sure.
is definitely a good point. Rashawn says take permanent positive control. And I like that statement. I love that statement because we can often be in a negative space
Hmm.
and hear everything from that negative space in a negative way.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself out of that negative space?
I think I'm always trying to look for the future. Like I'm
Mhm,
always trying to be like, what can I do now to, better myself? So again,
mhm.
I just have that mindset of like, I'm gonna be here in the next 50 years. I'm not gonna let this like stop me, and I'm gonna do, whatever I can.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta. It's a mind body connection. Do you think that? Definitely a mind body connection.
Hmm.
Robin asked, "May I ask?" She came in a little late, so she wants to know again. What is malt lymphoma, and why is it more related to children's?
So with like non-Hodgkin's, it does attack, our B cells. So Sjogren's and lupus, they all sort of like interconnect with each other. So our immune system is all haywired, and that's what's causing like the tumor to grow. So with the Rituxan, it sort of just like calms it all down.
Absolutely. Great, great way to put it. Very simple and to the point. Pamela says, really important that you pick a doctor that matches your personality. I'm lucky to have my team. Absolutely. I remember being diagnosed. And when I was first being diagnosed, that I had to go to a hand specialist. And the hand specialist said to me, look, I need to send you to a rheumatologist because I don't know what's going on. And he said, you want a young doctor or an old doctor? He said, the young doctor is going to be nice. The old doctor is going to tell you how it is. I was like, give me the old doctor. So I think that is definitely important. Do you have that? Is it like a friendship with you and your doctor, or is it straight doctor patient relationship?
I guess it depends on the type of doctor. I know with my rheumatologist, we're more on like a friendly, he'll ask me about my husband, he'll ask me what my plans are. So because
Mhm.
I see him more often, I do have a closer relationship with him. But like my other doctors who I see like every 6 months, it's just like, hi, how are you? But it is what it is. But I see my rheumatologist every 3 months, so he knows what's like going on with me. So
Right. Right. He knows
I'm
your life
thankful for
inside
that.
out. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there any resources or strategies that have been particularly helpful for you as you deal with all of the different things that are going on in your life?
So I guess like the internet really has helped me. So no one in my family has lupus or any autoimmune diseases at all. So it was a whole like learning curve for me, my family. So we were all learning this together because once I got diagnosed, I thought maybe I would get handed a pamphlet or something like this is what to do, what not to do. But I got handed nothing. It was just
Right.
like, hey, by the way, you have lupus, So I
Take
had to,
these pills and go on.
do research on my own. So thankfully, like the internet has like so many great resources.
Mhm,
Facebook, Instagram, there's a lot of like support groups online. So
mhm.
thankfully, the internet has a wide amount of like information. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Someone asked the question. Let me get this question up. It's kind of long. I hope it fits on the screen. Let's see. Evelyn says, how do any of you hold a job down? Like I'm in and out of flares and just can't function and it just doesn't work. Jobs aren't going to be like, okay, you can take a break when you need to, or it's okay if you call out for a week straight so you can just stay in bed and let the flare pass. It feels impossible. Please help. What would you say to her?
So I think I got very lucky with work. Um, I am able to work from home full time.
Hmm.
And when I got diagnosed, my managers were all very supportive because I work at a hospital. So I guess there's a sort of like compassion. Once it comes to, your workers and your patients, they understand like what's happening. So they were very understanding when I was, first getting my symptoms. I was like in and out. I needed to, see the doctors, figure out what was going on with me. They were very respectful of that. And,
Right.
like no questions asked. They were just like, go see whoever you need to see and get it taken care of. And
Right.
then once COVID hit, I told them that I was not comfortable going like in and out of the office anymore to the
Mhm.
hospitals because we didn't know what COVID was. I have
Right.
lupus, so I was not comfortable commuting in. I was able to get the okay to start working from home full time. So I think for
Wow.
me, I just got very lucky and
Yeah.
that I'm able to work from home full time because again, it does,
Mhm.
fluctuate every day, whether, you're feeling okay, if you have a flare.
Mhm.
So the work from home life has been, very manageable for me with like everything going on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. For me, I'm Evelyn. I haven't been able to work for about 20 something years because of lupus, and I think that was a big blow for me because oftentimes we are defined by our jobs. We go to school, we graduate college to get a good career, and when my doctor said, "Girl, if you go back to work, you're going to die." So you have a choice. You can go back to work and live this crazy life that you're living as a social worker or a teacher, or you can stop working and work on you. So it's very difficult to hold a job, especially when you're going through different flares. But you have to realize also that America's Disabilities Act is real. So I know a lot of people like to hide that they have lupus for fear of getting fired or having some, repercussions. But make sure that you're reading through that America's Disabilities Act. Make sure that you're talking to your employer about what goes on. If you need your doctor to talk to them, do those things so that you can have that time off. If it's going to feel so raw trying to not work when you're used to working, but your health depends on it. So you might have to find another way to do the job like Geri has done to be at home or find different forms of employment, is what I'm saying. And then this way you're able to have that time that you need. Also, if you're currently working, make sure you're checking out your FMLA. Make sure that you're documenting everything so that you can be covered and it's no issues. I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Let's see. What do we have? What do we have here? Have someone on Instagram. She said being extremely transparent with your job can help too. It may not always work, but it's worth a try. And now with things online, maybe it's time for a career change. And that's a valid point as well. Michelle says very much so, and businesses get tax subsidies for hiring disabled workers. HR doesn't work for you, they work for the company. And that's important. We'll have Michelle on next week because we're going to be talking about insurance, disability, and things of that nature. Someone else said talk to whoever else handles ADA accommodations. So there are ways out there. If you need some more help, reach out to us and I will put you in touch with someone that can help. Jeanette says apply for SSI. Now you haven't been had to do that, and that's good. But when you apply for SSI, you definitely have to be out of work for at least 6 months because it shows that you can't be gainfully employed. So just remember that. So let's get back to your story. how do you how do you maintain the hope in living as you deal with lupus? When you get a flare, how do you get out of that flare and that depression?
I guess I don't at that moment. In that moment, I'm just like
Hmm.
resting and I'm just in that moment until, I'm feeling better. I'm just like, it's eventually gonna get better, but at that time, and then when I'm just flaring, I'm just like, this pain is like never ending, and I'm just like, oh
Mhm.
my God, what's going on? But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I always say. Like, the pain doesn't last forever, thankfully. But
Right.
there are those days where it's just like, oh my God, I can't move, I can't get out of bed, and I'm just literally just there. I'm just like, don't bother me, come back, when I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah. You just relinquish to it, right? Yeah. Sometimes that's exactly what we need to do too. Is just when your body says slow down and sit down, you slow down and sit down, right?
Yep, yep. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I always say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at these questions. I'm sorry. So, looking back on your journey with lupus, what do you feel was the hardest part to deal with when you were first diagnosed? And what do you feel now is the hardest part for you to deal with? And how do you handle it?
I think it's the whole not knowing what my future was going to be like. So, again, when I first was diagnosed, I was 27 at the time. I just started dating my husband at that time. So I was just like, is he going to stick around? Because it was
Right.
literally a few months, and I'm just like, maybe, it's he won't be able to handle this. But, thankfully, I got a good man and he stuck it out. But again, those are the thoughts that, are like running into your head, and you're just like, well,
Absolutely.
what does my future look like? Am I going to be able to work full time? Am I going to have a family? So, all of these things is just like running through my head, and I just didn't know the answer. So I
Right.
think just the uncertainty of the future is what was, keeping me up at night. Like, how is this like disease gonna, affect, my future? So again,
Right.
you could just only take it one day at a time. So again,
Yeah.
lupus is super unpredictable. So one day you're good, the next day you're not. So it was just all, a mind game of just, persevering one day at a time.
Yeah. That's important.
And
That one day at a time is important.
yeah, because again, you can always worry about the future, but again, you never know what's going to happen. And, you might have a set plan in your head, and, life just takes another turn. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to get Sjogren's or non-Hodgkin's, but again, you can keep on planning, but, life just has, a mind of its own.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Some people get afraid to plan things when they have lupus. What do you tell those type of people? I mean, it's scary. I've planned things out months in advance and had to cancel 2 days before.
Yeah. So again, just plan it, but again, don't, again, I guess it's gonna be hard when it doesn't go your way, but just know, that's just one obstacle, but there's another option ahead of that.
Hmm.
It's not, just because you couldn't go to that party doesn't mean you're not going to go to another party in the future. There's something else that you can look forward to the next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know you stated that you were on Plaquenil at first, and Robin has a question that says, "I found that seeking out a therapist who specialized chronic illness was important. Took me a while, but I found one, and it was a great gift to myself. Have you ever had to deal with?" That's the wrong question I put up, but that's all right. Let's talk about that. Have you ever had to deal with the mental health portion of it and had to seek a therapist? And if so, how did that work out for you?
So I've never sought a mental health therapist, but I think because I have, a great support system, I could talk to my husband, I talk to my
Hmm.
parents, my friends. There was always that communication with them.
Right.
So I think I never went down that path, but um, I think one of the reasons that I also felt a need to go on like social media was because even though as much as I like talk to them, they didn't necessarily know
Understand.
exactly what I was going through. So I think even with like a mental health therapist, I just didn't feel like I would get the same connection. And I think that's why I geared more toward like social media support groups
Hmm.
where people actually knew what was like going on with like, lupus or Sjogren's or non-Hodgkin's.
Yeah.
They were in our shoes, so they would know exactly like what I was feeling. Because again, talking to someone healthy and you're just like, I'm tired, they're like, I'm tired too, but it's not the
Right.
same.
We are not the same.
So I think I never veered towards that path, but just went towards, I guess, just more people who are, in our same inner circle.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a difference when you can relate.
Yeah,
It
for
definitely
sure.
does. Someone said surrounding yourself with people who understand is a big key. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Now let's get back to the Plaquenil. that was a straight up lupus fog issue, right? It really So I know you said that you're on Plaquenil. I know I'm on Plaquenil. And she said, does anyone know if Plaquenil has long-term effects? Do you want to handle that one or you want me to?
So the long-term effects that I wish like more people I guess would talk about, because I guess is the one with your eyes. So if you're taking Plaquenil, you should definitely see an ophthalmologist at
Mhm.
least, every year. If you go twice a year, even better. But with Plaquenil, it does have effect with our retinas. So it's
Mhm.
called, I think, retinal toxicity.
Yep.
Again, I forgot the
You're
exact
right.
terminology, but I'm sure Raquel will like put it on on the
You're
screen.
right.
But definitely, yeah, long-term effects. Plaquenil does affect our eyes.
Yeah, it definitely does. And you have to get that little, I can't even remember the name of the test that where you have to find the dots and all that crazy
Yeah,
test that you have to do every year to make sure that your eyes are straight. But I want to caution people that don't get caught up on what the effects could be because the effects of the medication far outweigh, what the medication can help you
yeah,
with. So you don't want to get too much into, oh, the side effects of this, the side effects of that. Because sometimes, and look, let me be honest, sometimes our mind can play this trick on our body and literally can make manifest exactly what we say to it. So you want to be careful with taking the side effects and running with it as opposed to taking the side effects for what they are, looking for them, but still taking the medication that you need. Does that make sense, Jerry?
yeah. You gotta, weigh out the pros and cons.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone, Kimberly said, God bless your husband. Yes, God bless him. He's a great individual. He's stuck with you. He's still sticking with you. I love it. Eileen says, I felt like I was grieving the loss of the person I once was. It's very challenging.
Yep,
How have
yep.
you grieved the person that you once were and changed to fit your limitations?
So I guess like back then, I sort of felt like invincible. I'm just like I'm young, I'm healthy, I could do whatever. I'd be sleeping like 2, 3 hours a night, and I'll be fine the next day. But now it's just like, oh no, you cannot do that anymore. And you need like your 8 to 10 hours a night. You gotta, you can't be as spontaneous as you would, prior. Like again, you gotta plan it all out and, just make sure that you get the proper, care that you need.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think we talked about this a little earlier. I think you grieve constantly, because
Yeah.
something might trigger
Again,
you,
yeah.
and you'll be
It
like,
comes
"Oh, I
it comes
used
in
to be able to."
waves.
Yep, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. Kanisha Smith, I've been on it for over a year. No issues except I can't be in the sun. Period. I don't think any of us can really be in the sun. How about you, Jerry? Can you be in the sun?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No.
can be in morning
I
sun.
usually have, a hat or an umbrella. Yeah. I need a
Yep,
hat or an umbrella, SPF, sunscreen, all of that.
yep. All of it, all of it. Let's see what we have here. What we have here. Uh, Someone said they had to go off Plaquenil. I'll get the eye test on Monday. Have fun, Diana. You get the eye test Monday. I don't even know until I went to the eye doctor. Oh, I hate that test. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. That is one of the worst tests ever. It just annoys the heck out of me. And I think it's because I have scleritis as well. So
Mm,
all of that mixed into the whole test and dealing with your mind trying to mess with you because you have to take the stupid test, right? So I have a couple of more questions for you. I'm not going to keep you long because I know you've been busy all day. What quote gets you up in the morning or gets you out of a lupus funk?
quote. Okay, that's hard. Quote. Mm, uh, I don't know if it's a quote, but I guess it's like a saying like, I don't know, that's hard. I
That's a hard
guess
one.
just keep on going, I guess. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
just keep on. I don't, I guess it's just a saying, like just keep on going, and there's there's more to life to it. I guess that's what it is.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. How do you listen to music,
I listen to
and
music.
what
I
what's
guess
a
also
song
just a
that?
lot of like. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
We got a lag going. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, that lag started hitting again. What song actually motivates you?
I guess the fight song by Rachel Platten. I think that's one of a good like one of those songs where it's just like I can do it. Like it gets you just motivated and pumped up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know that you travel, and I love to see that. Tell us how to do it. When we have lupus, I think a lot of people. I honestly, I travel locally, or in the United States, but you travel internationally and everything. Tell me how you did it.
So that was my first trip in a long time when I went to Japan. So I had to get the okay from my doctor. That was one thing. I had to make sure, if there was any, issue, like I would be able to, call them and like message them or anything. So I first got their approval that, my labs are okay. So once I got that, I started looking for deals and just booking everything. And again, just planning everything. And again, chronic illness takes no vacation. So I did flare while I was on vacation, but again, you just got to just roll with the punches.
It's like
and
I'm in Japan. Why do I care?
so you got to like, balance it all out and have,
Mhm.
a rest day in between. So
Right.
again, you can plan all you want, but chronic illness does not take a break. So
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
plan rest days in between and um again, just keep on going. I,
Absolutely.
I always just say I pack in a lot of stuff because I also don't know when's the next time I'll be here. So I will sacrifice, back to back to back doing something and then I will recover once I'm home. Because again, I don't know when I'll be back in Japan. Japan's expensive, but it was fun.
Right.
But so I'm just like, I don't know when I'll be back here. So I'm gonna, take in everything as much as I can, and I will recover once I'm like back home fully.
Yeah, absolutely. How does that work during your life in general? Like, as far as overdoing it and things like that, do you begin to see that you're doing overdoing it more or less after your flares?
Oh, definitely I do less. Once I'm in a flare, I am just in my resting period. And again, my husband and my family will just like, do you need help with the dishes? Do you need help with the laundry? They know when it's like that time, it's just like we'll let her, rest and recover and, make sure that she's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have one more question for you, and I'm trying to keep our in the loop lives under an hour because we won't be able to put it up on Instagram. So I want to make sure that people are able to see it in different areas. What advice? Give me three pieces of advice that you would give our listeners about living well beyond lupus.
So one is that lupus, I tell a lot of people is that it does not define us. So
Mhm,
again, lupus is, just like another characteristic. Like I have brown hair, I have brown eyes, and I have lupus, but lupus does not define who I am as a person.
mhm,
So I think that's something that a lot of people, again, they think lupus is their end all be all, but we're more than that.
mhm,
So definitely just to take that into fact. And number two, I guess, find a good like doctor. It's okay to, have trial and error even with doctors. Like if you have a bad doctor, fire them. Doctors are supposed to work for you. So if you don't get that connection, they're not helping you, bye bye.
right, right.
You have the power to find somebody else, take care of you, have that, balance that, you can go to them for anything. So I think that's important. And then I guess the third one is um I guess also support system, like have a friend, your husband, your wife, anyone that you can talk to, because it's also, if you need a therapist, it's not good to, I guess, like bottle in all of your feelings, because one day again you'll just explode. So
Yeah,
definitely having that good support system is definitely key when you have, chronic illness like lupus, because again, you'll need that support system, whether it's now, later down the road, you need
right.
that person.
Absolutely. That last one, the support is so important. It's so important. It's so important for your mental health to have someone that you can just go to and talk to about lupus, whether it's someone that has lupus or doesn't.
Yeah,
Someone says always listen to your body.
yeah, that's good
Best
too.
Someone said best advice: lupus does not define us. We write our stories. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. There was a question here that I wanted to get to and I lost it. Oh, here we go. So before we let you go, let's answer this question. Do you have problems with your skin or hair?
Definitely my hair. I do have hair loss. It's more like patchy in the back of my scalp.
Yeah.
So I've tried, biotin, any of those like hair regrowth. Nothing seems to help. So I've just learned to, I guess, like cover it up. There's a lot of stuff like on Amazon, and yeah, I've just done that because nothing else has been working for me.
Absolutely.
Um, Skin wise, again, going out in the sun, I will get those rashes. So that's why I just cover it all up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fight in you. I so appreciate you coming on today and allowing us to hear your story and have some hope from it, because you're such a positive person. And I know that you're not positive all the time, but it's important that you're positive when you need to be positive for
Yeah.
yourself. So thank you for that. Thank you for that loving spirit and that positive personality that you do have. If you could leave us with one statement, what would it be tonight?
Statement just lupus wise, or
Just as whatever you want.
um, I guess yeah, just keep on going. We can do it. We
Yeah,
can do it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jerry. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you've been busy with Lupus Awareness Month and with work and everything else that you're doing. So I appreciate you taking your time out. And I love the fight in you. I can't wait to see what else you do with Lupus Awareness.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Jerry, stay right there. I'll be right back to you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I so appreciate you all coming in and listening to Jerry's story. She's such a strong warrior. I'm so happy that she was able to share her story with us. And I know that you all have gleaned something from her story and from her advice. So thank you, everyone. Have a happy, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, whether you're a mother of a human or a mother of a puppy, because my little puppy is in here crying. So have a happy Mother's Day and make sure that you join us again on the 13th when we have Michelle Barisi, who is an insurance agent that will discuss insurance and discuss disability and things of that nature that we might need. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you have a good night.